This video will give insight into the German Coast Uprising of 1811, one of the most significant and organized rebellions in the history of enslaved resistance in America. Often viewed as a desperate act of defiance, this rebellion challenges the narrative by revealing how it was a planned and strategic effort led by enslaved individuals who sought freedom through calculated action. Going into the main points of this video, the main things I will touch on are how this rebellion exemplifies slavery as war, where enslaved people fought not only for survival but for autonomy and dignity. Not only was it extremely organized, but it was also led by a driver, Charles DeLone, showing how resistance could emerge from within the system itself. And it was not just a spontaneous act of defiance, but a planned and organized effort that exemplified sophistication and organization. The 1811 German Coast Uprising was not a spontaneous act of rebellion, but a strategic, organized effort, a war for freedom. This wasn't chaos, but warfare. The rebels, about 500 strong, were organized into companies, each led by an officer and marched with military precision. Enslaved people marched down the Mississippi River in disciplined formation, with drums beating and flags waving, ready for battle. Both men and women participated, each playing a role in a coordinated effort to overthrow their oppressors, with discipline being an exemplifying factor. Next, let's talk about leadership. Leadership in this revolt came from those within the system, like the driver, who were trusted by both enslavers and the enslaved. Recruitment was key. Leaders used both persuasion and violence to gain followers, building an army on the march, ready to fight for their freedom. The leader of the rebellion, Charles Deslones, was a mulatto slave driver from Saint Domingue. As a driver, Deslones held a higher position of authority within the enslaved community. Drivers like Deslones were key in many slave revolts due to their leadership experience. This role gave him the ability to shape and channel the growing discontent into organized resistance. Deslones used his position to recruit other slaves, sometimes forcing them at gunpoint to join the rebellion. Moving on to timing. The timing of the revolt shows how enslaved people were attuned to global events. With rumors of revolutions in Haiti, Mexico, and Cuba, the rebels seized the opportunity to strike at a vulnerable New Orleans, aware that this was their moment to fight back. Now let's compare. So we're going to be looking at the driver's story by Dr. Brown, specifically the chapter about rebellion. So both the German Coast Uprising and other slave revolts show that collective resistance was key, and that these uprisings were organized wars for liberation driven by shared common goals. Also, these uprisings were fueled by secret meetings and organized gatherings. Brown explains how national assemblies where enslaved people from different plantations communicated helped unite rebels under a common goal. Also, many rebel leaders, including Deslones, were likely veterans of previous revolts like the Haitian Revolution. This experience shaped their military strategies as seen in the tactical planning behind the German Coast Uprising and other revolts. These leaders brought wartime knowledge to help fight for their freedom. To help provide us with a key example of how slavery can be seen as war, let's look at Tacky's Revolt, which erupted in Jamaica in 1760. Tacky's Revolt and the German Coast Uprising both demonstrate how enslaved rebels orchestrated strategic military-like resistance. Leaders like Tacky and Deslones, often former slaves with military discipline, organized coordinated attacks across plantations. They used the land to their advantage and executed their plans with tactical foresight. A key component in both uprisings was the role of the drivers, enslaved individuals who were trusted by slaveholders to oversee work and use their positions to recruit and command others, organizing them into units for revolt. Ultimately, both revolts illustrate how slavery was seen as a war for freedom. Enslaved leaders like Tacky and Deslones acted as military commanders, using strategy, coordination, and leadership to fight back against their oppressors with a sense of purpose and tactical sophistication.